What's up, meta nerds? This complete breakdown of the Rogue-class or Utapauan Porax-38 Starfighter will pull from every resource available over the past few decades. It's a ship that was made infamous by Cad Bane, used by the IG-100 Magna Guards, and we'll end by looking at the insanely obscure Mankvim 814 light interceptor, which was used against this ship during the Battle of Utapau for a very specific reason. It was designed by Bactoid Armor Workshop, the Geonosian-based company that made most of the units of the droid army, though the Nantex class was made by Hoopla Pasa Tisk, which really only made craft for the Geonosians themselves, including the Solar Sailor and the Genifex. But even with Bactoid's expertise from STAPs to super tanks, E5 blasters to OG9 homing spiders, to produce the Porax, they linked up with Boobler Tarskill Abbey Devices, which was based on Utapau, and they specialized in a lot of the unique tech that we'll see in this craft. And that unique origin is why it has such a unique look, being a native Utapauan design. Most planets never had any planetary defense force, even the Republic just had the judiciary forces before the Clone Wars. But in the decades leading up to the galaxy-scale Civil War, many planets were naturally militarizing. A slow but steady arms race to keep up with the pirates and crime syndicates, which themselves had been increasingly empowered via the secret machinations of Darth Plagueis and Sidious. The Trade Federation became by far the largest military power in the world, simply due to the Republic allowing them to have weapons for self-defense, as they coordinated galactic trade through all those areas that the Republic was unable to keep safe themselves. So in the Outer Rim, Utapau found itself increasingly in need of its own starships for planetary defense. But by this time, the Trade Federation had placed trade embargoes on all arms sales to planetary governments. Essentially, they wanted to keep the monopoly. So the Utapauans couldn't bring in materials, but they apparently got assistance from the Trade Federation's most crucial members, the Geonosians of Bactoid Workshop. Perhaps it was simply a matter of credits, circumventing the Trade Federation as a whole, or it was just out of the bug's pure love of engineering. Whatever the case, though they had design assistance, Utapauans had to produce it completely on their world. Despite being in the Outer Rim, an area that mostly naturally aligned with the CIS, Utapau did not, and these Porax craft had worked to keep off some pirate forces and opportunistic raiders that hoped to go unnoticed in the chaos of galactic warfare. The Utapauans even had anti-pirate Rendili dreadnoughts, though these were downscaled. Their largest was only 1/5 the size of CIS battleships like the Requisite. The Porax was to be the opposite of something like the Vulture droids. These were supposed to operate independently on long-range missions and be able to both jam and destroy the cheaper Separatist droid fighters. A Class 1 hyperdrive meant it was among the fastest ships ever made at going through the blue void of hyperspace, and this allowed it to pop up near Taraba Prime, which was the nearest major shipping and communications hub. Utapau's unique pull is that it's like in a sweet spot of being obscure enough that nobody thinks of it or ever travels there by accident, but only a short jump away from a major enough hub to then connect to the rest of the galaxy. This is eventually what would attract General Grievous later in the war. Think of it like having a secret hidden jungle base on some remote island, but which has an airstrip for your private jet, and is itself a short trip from some major country. And its top atmospheric speed of 1,200 km per hour, or 746 miles per hour, meant it was as fast as the Vulture droid and TIE fighter, while being far beefier. It's more comparable to an X-Wing or ARC-170, and so it's far faster than normal for this type of fighter. To fit its long-range role, it could pack in 20 days of air, fuel, and food, though we gotta hope they would set down on some world or spaceport, cause 20 days in this tiny cockpit would require some Jedi level of calm and patience. And its armament may seem a bit light with just 2 laser cannons, but these had beam amplification chambers that dramatically increased the power output of each beam. And it could attach a munitions rack with 8 explosive devices, all of various types, making it operate like a bomber. So in squads you could have a few bombers and more basic fighters, so you get all the advantages of having the same ships, sharing parts, tactics, expertise, etc., but you could slap on increased firepower when you needed it. All on a frame that was 12.7 meters or 42 feet long, which is just a bit longer than the X-Wing, or nearly twice the length of the Vulture droid, while being just a bit taller than a Wookiee. Now I think the most interesting aspect of this ship is the tech. with highly effective long-range sensor packages that gave it an early warning advantage against just about everything out there. Being packed into the forward-facing cone, along with the standard scanning systems, and it wasn't just passive. There was a jamming component that would be crucial against droids. Even if it couldn't fully turn them off, it could disable crucial systems that would make separatist droid hive mind tactics break down, so it would be a lot easier to pick them off. But this system did create so much heat that we are told that it is all cooled with liquid helium. While the Porax could absorb a ton of hits due to its unique shield generator, it is a deflector shield projector web, something I don't think we've ever seen on any other ship. Which, while it sounds cool, it probably just has the same effect of overlapping shield projectors. But to keep this powerful system running, they had many individual heat sink cells, which are embedded in each of the deflector units. And that's why I say they really dialed in on what was the purpose of this ship. It can travel across the galaxy fast, carry out long-range missions striking at some pirate holdout, and the laser cannons were enough when paired with the mission-specific explosive ordnance. And these wings are lined with repulsor lift cells, which help negate gravity to get the ship off the ground, while these huge thrusters give it that acceleration. With the fuel tank located here, followed by the fuel injector manifold, which says that each wing reactor annihilates up to 3.1 kilograms of fuel per second. But that should be taken with a grain of spice, since we start getting up to Death Star's worth of fuel if we just do the math on that. And I always make this point, many things are twin ion engines, not just the TIE fighters, as this ionization chamber takes particles and accelerates them out the back to provide thrust, and there's one on each side. But the really unique Utapauan design gives vectoring systems a series of tubes that can each have varying amounts of thrusts up or down independently, excellent for very fine maneuvering. These blue parts are the shield web system, and like I said, they seem to be taking the idea of overlapping layers and just having tons of smaller ones, probably more independent projectors than any other ship we've ever seen. Now, before the invasion by Grievous at the end of the war, there was a CIS commander named Zolgast that had a personal Porax-38, and Cad Bane would heavily modify his and use it throughout the war. His was named Xanadu Blood, and we don't get a lot of details on the mods. I'd imagine it's heavy on scanning and jamming, though he would eventually get a cloaking device as payment for stealing the Jedi Holocron, which had all the records of Force-sensitive children throughout the galaxy.
With elite weapons, cloaking device the works. I'll triple my usual rate.
With this cloaking device, his craft would have joined Maul's Scimitar and the prototype stealth ship as being one of the few in recorded history to have this OP device. And the fact that he chose this ship shows that it really had an appeal to those in the know. This was in no way a famous or even flashy ship. It was likely the tech package and deflector shield web system with those supercharged laser cannons that drew him, as it made for a very unassuming ship, but one that could punch above its weight and surprise any attacking forces by absorbing way more hits than they expected, while also being faster than almost anything out there. He may have learned about it via the modified units that were given to Grievous's IG-100 Magna Guards, perhaps being recommended via the Bactoid connection in that design phase. Maybe those droid makers knew that this would be an excellent ship for these elite droid units. Dirge would also pilot one during the war, and when Bane and his ship were captured, they found the bounty hunter had wiped the navigation logs, which would have been stored on devices right over here in the engine unit. When Grievous descended on Utapau and made it a secret hideout for CIS leadership, Tion Madon, the master of Utapau port administration, ordered his P-38 forces to go into hiding, knowing it would be a waste of life and resources to try and take on the sheer number of CIS forces. But when Kenobi and the Republic forces swooped in, Tion ordered his pilots to join the fight, and they raced out of the hidden hangars, using their home field advantage, knowing this odd sinkhole cave setting in tandem with their advanced scanners, jammers, and OP lasers, which could disintegrate the fragile droid fighters. And together with behemoths like the ARC-170s, they quickly routed the Separatists and then turned to hunting them across the skies of their homeworld. Republic pilots were in awe of how capable the Porax's jammers were, watching as the Vulture droid's effective IQ was decimated. Each unit had very weak processing power on its own, so once isolated, they were all easy pickings, seeming to barely be aware of or react to threats from their environment. But then they encountered a very odd enemy. Perhaps Grievous had taken measures to negate some of the effects of the jamming tech in the Porax, because this is one of the only times we see this craft. the Mankvim 814. In a lot of ways, it was the opposite of the Porax. It was built by a seemingly corrupt Fethan Otra scalable assemblies, which was based on Utapau, but it actually made them for the Techno Union. So while the Porax was proudly defending its homeworld, this traitorous craft was also made on Utapau, but to strengthen aliens. And it was purpose designed to subvert the hometown hero. It was faster at 1,450 kilometers per hour and smaller at just 10.7 meters. It was a bit weaker with basic light laser cannons, simpler shielding, and was not meant for long-range missions, just to betray the Porax in the eventual fight on Utapau. And most crucially, it was piloted by an organic. So pilot skills played a factor, not just the dumb droid brain that could be remotely lobotomized by the jamming tech. This was the Separatists' hidden ace, but when they did rush out to meet the Poraxes, they were overwhelmed by the robust Republic allies, which is why this craft is almost unheard of. But ironically, both ships would see a similar end. Utapau didn't fare well under Imperial rule, and these two craft would end up in the hands of spacers, pirate gangs of the sort the Porax once proudly fought against, and the greatest numbers end up in the corporate sector authority. I guess in a way that could be seen as a noble consolation prize, as at least the CSA was not under the thumb of Palpatine. It was outside of the entire Clone Wars conflict, and so the Porax was still serving its main role of fighting for independence, but we never hear of it returning home. That's it for the breakdown. The cross-sections come from the complete cross-sections book. You can even get the specific Revenge of the Sith book, but if you made it this far, please hit that like button. I really do need your help. But most important of all, remember, giant shipbuilding monopolies really did rob us of more unique alien designs. And the Force will be with you, always.